Okay, I want you to imagine you're underwater. The heavy, cold weight of the water is just pressing in on you from all sides. You're completely submerged, the surface is right there, just out of reach, and every single second feels like an absolute eternity. Just put yourself in that visceral, physical space for a second. Your oxygen, it's running out, fast. That burning sensation in your lungs is really starting to build. And in this exact moment, every single primal human instinct you possess is screaming at you to do one thing: move faster, kick harder, thrash your way to the surface. Your brain is literally sounding an alarm, telling you that if you don't speed up right now, you aren't going to make it.
Your heart starts racing, thumping violently against your ribs. But here's the crazy paradox of high-stakes survival. Rushing is actually one of the absolute most dangerous things you can do. When you panic and speed up, you burn through your oxygen way faster, you make terrible decisions, and your chances of survival completely plummet. Elite military units, they know this. They're taught the exact opposite of our natural human instinct. They are taught to slow down when everyone else is speeding up.
So, let's dive into this. Welcome to this explainer on the architecture of composure. Today, we're exploring the fascinating psychology behind staying calm under pressure. We're going to look at the extreme methods used by elite forces like Navy SEALs and professional athletes to completely rewire their natural human responses. And look, this isn't just about combat or deep-sea survival. This applies to your business, your relationships, your finances, literally every high-pressure moment you face in everyday life. We're going to decode the tactical calm that separates the absolute best from the rest of us.
Section 1. The Drown-Proofing Test. Surviving with Bound Hands and Ankles.
To truly understand how to build this kind of composure, we've got to start in one of the most extreme environments on Earth: Navy SEAL water proficiency training. Being comfortable in the water is a core skill for every SEAL, and the training scales up until they face a challenge that is practically designed to break a normal human being's psychology. Candidates don't just jump into a pool. Their hands and feet are bound, tied together. In this totally restrictive state, they're thrown into a deep pool where they have to perform a highly controlled sequence of tasks. They have to bounce off the bottom of the pool, they have to float without any gear, they have to swim, and perhaps craziest of all, they have to swim to the very bottom and pick up a mask using only their teeth.
And here is the kicker. They have to survive this ordeal for 5 full minutes. 5 minutes of careful, calculated breath control while tied up in deep water. It's a rigorous test of water confidence, sure. But the core goal isn't just swimming. It's about overcoming the absolute visceral fear of drowning. By mastering their own panic in this engineered life-or-death scenario, SEALs build the ultimate confidence to act fast and without fear in the most stressful situations you could possibly imagine.
Section 2. The Brain Under Panic: Why Rushing is Dangerous.
So, why do they go to such wild extremes to train this out of people? Well, let's look at the neuroscience of why our brains tend to fail us when stress spikes. When you hit a high-pressure situation, whether it's a sudden crisis at work or a physical threat, your brain immediately shifts into primal survival mode. It basically gets dumber. We miss critical information, we rush our decisions, we get severe tunnel vision, and we completely forget our training. We just become reactive animals. But a trained diver, they have a methodical reaction to a crisis. Instead of reacting, they follow a deliberate protocol. Stop, breathe, think, act. It's a structured sequence that overrides that primitive brain. Contrast that with what untrained people do. Panic, move, hope. They panic, they thrash around, or make a move immediately without thinking, and they just hope it works out. Let me be absolutely clear about this. Panic, move, hope is exactly what you should not do. Whether you're underwater or watching a massive business deal collapse right in front of you, rushing destroys your decision-making. Hope is simply not a strategy when the pressure is on.
Section 3. Controlling your nervous system: The Neuroscience of Breathing.
Okay, so how do we actually get from panic, move, hope to stop, breathe, think, act? How do we bridge that gap? It all comes down to actively controlling your nervous system. The Navy SEALs use a very specific evidence-based technique to reduce their stress responses during high-pressure situations. And it's a tool you can literally use sitting at your desk right now. It's called box breathing, and I want to walk you through it. It's elegantly simple, but so incredibly powerful. First, you inhale slowly for 4 seconds. Then you hold that breath in your lungs for 4 seconds. Next, you exhale smoothly for 4 seconds. And finally, you hold your lungs empty for 4 seconds. Inhale, hold, exhale, hold. It creates a rhythm. It forces your heart rate to steady. Now, there is a crucial misconception we need to clear up right here. The goal of this exercise isn't relaxation. You aren't trying to fall asleep or meditate on a beach somewhere. The goal is regaining control of your nervous system. Research shows that our breathing patterns are strongly linked directly to our stress levels. It's a two-way street. If you're stressed, your breathing gets shallow and fast. But if you intentionally change your breathing pattern to be deep and structured, you forcibly change your physical state. You are essentially hijacking your own biology to get your brain working properly again.
Section 4. Pressure reveals your skill. Lessons from elite performers.
Let's take this out of the water and see how it builds into the rest of our lives. Because this isn't just about military survival. We see these exact same principles in civilian life, in sports, in boardrooms, and in everyday challenges. What actually happens when everyday elite performers are put under the microscope of immense pressure? Take professional darts players. Darts, which is a game we usually associate with pubs and hanging out, is actually a masterclass requiring immense fine motor control and deep focus. You'd think that when the stakes were highest, major tournaments, massive crowds, big money on the line, their performance would drop, right? But a fascinating study found the exact opposite. These highly skilled performers didn't choke. They actually performed better under pressure.
And this brings us to a massively important realization. Pressure didn't create skill. Pressure revealed it. I really want you to think about that. Pressure itself doesn't magically make you better at darts, or better at business, or better at managing a family crisis. Your training, your thousands of hours of practice, created the skill in the first place. The pressure merely acts as a spotlight, revealing the foundation of training you've built underneath. If you haven't trained, pressure reveals the cracks. But if you have trained, pressure reveals your mastery.
Section 5. Systems beat emotion. The biggest myth about pressure.
This leads us right into addressing the biggest myth everyday people hold about high-stakes environments and the people who thrive in them. When we see someone confidently navigating a crisis, we tend to make a deeply flawed assumption about what's going on in their head. The myth is that calm people aren't scared. We think that Navy SEALs or top CEOs or elite athletes just don't feel fear or stress. Well, newsflash, that is entirely wrong. The reality is that they absolutely feel stress. A Navy SEAL with their hands tied at the bottom of a pool definitely feels the fear of drowning. The fundamental difference isn't the absence of fear. The difference is that they have systems in place so they can still think while they are afraid. And those systems are anchored in 3 undeniable truths. Training beats emotion. When terror strikes, your training takes over. Systems beat motivation. You aren't always going to feel motivated to stay calm, but a system like box breathing forces you to. Habits beat willpower. You cannot simply willpower your way out of biological panic. You have to rely on ingrained habits. Composure ultimately is not a personality trait you're just born with. It is a highly trained system.
So the big takeaway we're pulling from all of this, from deep water survival to neuroscience to elite athletes, is right here. The people who perform best under pressure aren't the people who feel the least fear. And the people who look the strongest aren't always the fastest. They're often the calmest. When everything goes wrong, the average person defaults to speeding up. The highest performers do the exact opposite. They deliberately choose to slow down. They stop, they breathe, they think, and only then do they act. Which leaves us with a critical reflection for your own life, your own work, and your own everyday challenges. The pressure is going to come. That's a guarantee. The only variable in the equation is your response. So I'll leave you with this. The next time everything goes wrong, will you speed up or will you slow down?